Gambia's Minister of Health Thursday announced more than 100 new COVID-19 cases and 4 deaths. The COVID-19 pandemic has made life harder for poor children in South Africa. And the European Union has expressed concern over political instability in Mali. Well, this and more coming on The World Today. Hello, this is Africa TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin. I am Amadou Kante. Many thanks for joining us. And now the news in detail. First to the COVID-19 latest update in the Gambia, because 4 new COVID-19 related deaths recorded on August 20th, bringing the total number of deaths from the virus to 81 since the first case was confirmed in the Gambia in March. Samples from all 4 deaths, 3 males and 1 female, were collected postmortemly, and the Ministry of Health said in its daily situation report, out of 6 post-mortem samples is received, 1 returned positive, 3 tested inconclusive, and 2 were negative for COVID-19. The country has also recorded 113 new cases, taking the total number of COVID-19 cases ever confirmed in the country to 2,401. And the median age of the new cases is 35 years, and the age bracket range from 1 to 91 years. 309 new laboratory test results were received from the Medical Research Council, the Gambia, and National Public Health Laboratory. And of these, 3 new tests returned inclusive, 11 new discharge were made, whereas no one was newly taken into quarantine for the first time since the coronavirus outbreak in the Gambia. The country currently has 291 people in quarantine, 1,885 active cases and 201 probable cases, and a crude case fatality ratio of 3.4%. The Ministry of Health said the bulk of the active cases are asymptomatic and are self-isolating at home, pending the manifestation of symptoms. And from that report on the latest situation in the Gambia, next to, of course, the European Union matters, because the EU leaders have joined calls for a return to rule of law in Mali following Tuesday's coup, which ousted President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita's regime. Well, during an extraordinary summit in Brussels on Wednesday, the European bloc said it was worried about the stability of the region. Well, details of that in this report.
Charles Michel, the president of the European Council, said on Wednesday that the EU is extremely worried about the military coup in Mali. He said prisoners should be freed and the West African nations should return to rule of law.
We also had the opportunity to talk about the situation in Mali. We are extremely preoccupied with the latest developments over the last few hours. We consider that the stability of the region and of Mali and the fight against terrorism must remain an absolute priority, and we call for an immediate release of the prisoners and for the return of the rule of law.
The EU financially supports the G5 Sahel structures, an intergovernmental cooperation framework headquarters in Nouakchott, which was created in 2014 to fight insecurity. Michel said the EU Council is concerned about the peace and security of Mali and the entire Sahel region.
We've raised the events in Mali. The events in Mali are of deep concern and can have a destabilizing impact on the entire region and on the fight against terrorism.
In June 2018, the European Council adopted conclusions on Mali and the Sahel, reiterating continued support to the stabilization of efforts of the G5 Sahel countries, which include Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Mauritania, and Niger. Reporting for iAfrica TV, I am Ibrahima Kebi Sonko.
The European Union expressing concern over the political situation in Mali, and from that report there, we come back home, because following news of the transformation of Serekunda General Hospital into a COVID-19 treatment center, effective Monday, Africa TV asked the Director of Health Services, Dr. Mustafa Bitai, what will happen to patients currently admitted at the hospital.
So the process is not going to be very fast. There are people looking at it and how it's going to be done. But for sure is that all the patients will be taken care of. So how it's going to be done is there's just a redistribution. So it's like you have a pool of patients, and then those who are COVID sick from all other facilities now will come here, and the other facilities that have the other services now will take care of the cases that were supposed to be in Canopy. So we want to do it to have a smooth transition as much as possible. Yes. We are looking at those measures, and it could be that they will be referred to another hospital instead of Canopy. And we are also looking, there are some hospitals that already have facilities which could be upgraded so that they can do some of the services already, so they don't need to refer. I know it's just a provisional arrangement. It's not for long until you peak and start to decline. Then, you relinquish it back. It's not like a permanent problem. It's just to take care of the cases as much as possible.
Dr. Mustafa Bitey, the Director of Health Services of the Ministry of Health, speaking there. I'm from that next to South Africa, because the South African Youth Organization is working on a program to support children in vulnerable communities amid the challenges brought about the coronavirus pandemic. Children are back at school since the government eases emergency regulation, but others are left in the street due to the economic hardships in poor communities. But the Keep Town Youth program is out to mitigate the life-challenging condition the children are going through. Here's more details of that.
I'm in Kliptown, one of South Africa's poorest areas. People here live in shacks with no running water or electricity. Putting food on the table is a daily struggle. COVID-19 has only made life harder for these people and for their children.
People were required to stay at home, and it's almost impossible to stay home in this community because you've got a one-room shack that is shared by about 5-6 people. I think it was going to be better if kids from communities like ours were in school rather than being at home. Because when they're here, you'll see they're playing on the streets, and when they're on the streets, sometimes they don't have their masks, they're not sanitizing.
Despite being surrounded by all this poverty, there is a beacon of hope. It's known as the Kliptown Youth Program. Only 2 grades are back in school since restrictions were eased, and there's little time to play with more than half the academic year lost.
What we did as Kliptown Youth Program was to start a holiday program, a school holiday program, where children have to come here for 2 hours a day. And in that 2 hours, they get an opportunity to do some online learning. In addition to that, they will also spend time reading, and we communicate with different schools in terms of getting resources that we can use to share with our kids.
Safety has also become a concern as the lockdown drags on. Many children are left roaming the streets when parents are at work. There's also been a spike in child abuse and gender-based violence.
Once they leave us, we don't know what they get themselves into, because one of the biggest challenges in this community is alcohol abuse. And you know that some things such as gender-based violence are mostly led by people being intoxicated. And the other thing is that people around here are very stressed. People are challenged in a way that every time when people are frustrated, the solution, they take out their frustration to their children or their partners.
The reality for these children has been harsh. This time has been unsettling, and it may take years to return to what they know.
A youth organization there in South Africa supporting children amidst the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And from the report there, we will now take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of the story. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
debunking COVID-19 myths. Myth 1.
Gis nga yow yaa ngi réer sa boobu max bi ak tàngoor bi nii man gis nga man ragaluma COVID-19 coronavirus mënul da téye nit ku ñuul.
déedéet boy coronavirus dina jàpp bépp xeet dina jàpp bépp der dina jàpp bépp réew te gis nañ lum fi def ci réew yu nekk Afrique ak lu ko wóor te Gambia ci la bokk COVID-19 lu am la boo nga xam loolu.
Myth 2.
Suma chame. Ndax lekk laaj mën na laa aar si feebari coronavirus bi?
déedéet laaj dara firndelu ko continuer ci sa raxasam loxo mi te nga joxe diggante seen nit yooyu jokkalanteel te nga toppa sarta yi nag yu ñu tegtal pour nga mun cee muccaaleel si sa njaboot yeeg sa dëkkandoor yeeg ak àdduna si yépp.
Myth 3.
Suma chame. Mbaa xam nga ne feebari coronavirus bi Gambia bokku parce que feebar bi mënut a dunda si réew yu tàngay.
déet soxna coronavirus daal mën naa dundee fu ne waate mu tànga wara mu seega xoolal si suñu réew mi dëkkandoo bi ñuy def daal saa su ne neen raxas suñuy loxo mën a génne jàngoro bu nekk suñuy loxo te ñuy moytu laal suñuy bët ak suñuy loxo wara bakket wara génne.
Myth 4.
Waaw nijaay.
waaw
feebari coronavirus bi maa dégg rek.
waaw
feebari mbirum taalat.
ku la wax loolu
ñun waa def ji bokkul foofu dara loolu feebari mbirum taalat.
déedéet yaa ngi nax sa bopp.
nijaay.
gis nga feebar bii dina jàpp ku nekk. am na ñun jàpp si yeneenu tund fii si dëkk bi. feebar bi lu xam la de te ñëpp lay jàpp nag wasalaam.
Welcome back, and you're watching the World Today News Bulletin on Africa TV. And now to the rest of the story, and we go back to Mali again, because the spokesman for rebel soldiers who overthrew Mali's government on Tuesday urged citizens to go back to their normal activities and stop the vandalism. Well, the coup soldiers, led by Colonel Assimi Goïta, as chairman for the National Committee for the Salvation of the People, had promised to hold elections within a reasonable time, but give no timeline. Well, here's more details of that in this report.
Colonel Major Ismaila Wage, the spokesman of the five-man junta that disposed President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, has on Wednesday called on Malians to resume their daily activities. The group received global condemnation, including Mali's suspension from major regional and sub-regional blocs like the ECOWAS and AU. They have also been urged to release ex-President Keïta and senior officials of his government, but Wage made no mention of officials held hostage by the coup soldiers during Wednesday's press briefing.
Le comité invite les populations à vaquer librement à leur occupation.
The committee is asking the population to carry on or resume doing their regular activities. The committee is asking government workers to go back to work starting tomorrow, while reassuring the population that everything is being done to assure the safety of workers, their properties and their workplaces. The committee will take all the necessary disciplinary measures towards any soldier caught racketeering and bothering peaceful citizens. The committee is asking for acts of vandalism to stop immediately, as well as destruction of commercial buildings. Otherwise, the offenders will be punished. The committee insists that while its activities were being carried out, there were no casualties, contrary to erroneous reports which mention 4 deaths and 10 injured.
Keïta's government became increasingly unpopular after months of anti-government protest over economic stagnation, allegations of corruption, and its inability to quell the rising insecurity. Mahamoud Diko, a teacher by profession, shared his view. He said Keïta's rule had robbed citizens and made them suffer.
Ibrahim Abubakar Keïta made us suffer. He robbed us. He brought us into an abyss. He sold us, if we can put it that way, because he made agreements with the people such as, for example, the peace agreements. Where are we with these agreements? Where are we with peace in Mali? Where are we with freedom in Mali?
Umiyarisi, a member of Espoir Mali Kora, a civil society group, said that Keita had betrayed the country that gave him a name and glory. The Espoir Mali Kora is part of a civil society movement led by filmmakers and former culture minister Sheikh Omar Sissoho.
Keita? We don't talk about him anymore. He's in history's trash bin. That's what he chose because this country gave him everything. He had glory in his time. He was president. He had a lot of money. He had respect and the whole world knew him. But as a reward, he gave us away. He gave Mali away to our enemies. And today, we are trapped. Today, a Malian life is worth nothing.
While the military junta said there were no casualties during Tuesday's night coup, it has announced a nationwide curfew from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. They have also called all land and air borders in an apparent response to ECOWAS shutting all borders with Mali. For iAfrica TV, Fatmata Fati.
And from the report there by Fatmata Fati, of course, with regards to the political situation in Mali, next we head to South Sudan because South Sudanese citizens and private sector businesses could now benefit from an affordable credit loan facility from commercial banks as the central bank cuts interest rates. This latest move, according to the central bank, is geared towards reducing the cost of financing handed to private sector by the commercial banks. Experts say reducing the loan facility to 10% would avail business owners the opportunity to lend more money from the commercial banks. Here's more details of that.
South Sudan Central Bank says lowering the interest rates should encourage spending on credit and investment and help stimulate the country's sagging economy.
The downward revisions of the central bank rate to 10% is meant to reduce the overall cost of financing extended to private sector by commercial banks. Affordable loans will benefit business and South Sudanese citizens alike at this time of crisis.
But one challenge for the Juba-based Bank of South Sudan is that many businesses and individuals in the country rely on cash and don't hold bank accounts. Experts say that limits the impact the central bank can have.
In order to make right policies, it is good to have an overview and control over the quantity and the flow of the money in the country.
The Apex Bank in South Sudan says it is also lowering the cash reserve from 15 to 10% to reduce economic hardships on individuals and businesses during this period of the pandemic. Economic experts say lowering the cash reserve ratio means commercial banks can lend more money to businesses and households since the mandatory amount required to be kept in reserve is lower. However, some economists argue that for South Sudan's economy to fully function well, more work still needs to be done.
The struggles of the economy in South Sudan is largely due to several factors that of course includes the inability of the central bank to carry out a robust macroeconomic policy and monetary policies that can regulate the financial sector, and also the fact that the public financial management process in the government is hugely influenced by indiscipline, I would say, in spending by different spending agencies.
The Bank of South Sudan says it has a number of measures in place to help the economy navigate the adverse effects caused by the pandemic.
And from the report there in South Sudan, finally we end this news bulletin with matters of American politics because the UN
addressing fellow
Republican President Donald Trump, who once questioned the citizenship of his predecessor and known for his repealing most of the Affordable Health Care Act, also known as Obamacare, has again come under attack. Speaking from Philadelphia on the third night of the Democratic Convention via video link, Barack Obama condemned Trump's hard leadership style and labeled him as a selfish individual. Ibrahim John reports.
fellow Democrats, the third night of the convention where Kamala Harris accepted her nomination as Joe Biden's running mate, Barack Obama said Trump manifested no willingness to execute his work. The Hawaii-born Democrat pointed out that Trump occupies the White House to help himself and his close associates.
I never expected that my successor would embrace my vision or continue my policies. I did hope, for the sake of our country, that Donald Trump might show some interest in taking the job seriously, that he might come to feel the weight of the office and discover some reverence for the democracy that had been placed in his care. But he never did. For close to 4 years now, he has shown no interest in putting in the work, no interest in finding common ground, no interest in using the awesome power of his office to help anyone but himself and his friends.
Obama, who previously criticized Trump for his poor handling of the coronavirus outbreak, said on Wednesday that Trump handled the presidency as a reality show to entice the attention of Americans. He also claimed that Trump failed to master the art of leadership despite spending almost 4 years as President of the United States.
No interest in treating the presidency as anything but one more reality show that he can use to get the attention he craves. Donald Trump hasn't grown into the job because he can't. And the consequences of that failure are severe.
The name of Senator Kamala Harris will be indelible in history manuscripts as the first black Asian American vice presidential candidate. Kamala Harris, age 55 and a former prosecutor, is believed to reinforce Biden's appeal to black and women voters. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Ibrahim John.
And that report there by Ibrahim John, as you heard there, on, of course, recent development on the American politics, we finally and eventually brings this news bulletin to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, you can log on our website on iAfrica.tv. Once again, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and bye for now.